You didn't sleep enough last night, and the night before that, and probably the one before that too. You know this, you just don't think it matters that much. You're functioning, you're getting through your days, a little tired maybe, but fine. Here's the problem. That's exactly someone with a broken gauge would say. And your gauge? It broke a long time ago. Sleep deprivation doesn't feel like falling apart. It feels like Tuesday. It feels like normal. And that's the most dangerous thing about it. Because right now, reading this, your brain is running on a deficit it can't even measure anymore. And it has been for a while. There's a chemical called adenosine. Every single hour you're awake, your brain produces more of it. It stacks up neuron by neuron like a tab you keep telling yourself you'll close later. Sleep is the only thing that clears it, not the coffee. Coffee doesn't remove adenosine. It just blocks the signal like putting the tape over the check engine light and calling it fixed. The adenosine is still there, stacking, waiting. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Think about the last time you were up past 1 a.m., scrolling, watching something, just existing, nothing crazy. Or you woke up at like 8 or 9, stayed up late, normal night. That's 17 hours awake. At exactly that point, scientists have actually measured what your brain is doing. And what they found is that your reaction time, your decision making, your ability to notice your own mistakes is performing at the same level as someone who has been drinking all night, enough to be legally drunk to drive. Enough to get arrested. You wouldn't even knew. Not tired, not slow, legally and measurably drunk. But you don't feel drunk. That's the entire trap. Because sleep-deprived people, when actually tested in labs, consistently rate their own performance as totally fine. You lose the ability to notice you're impaired at the exact same rate that you've become impaired. The gauge breaks at the same time as the engine. So while you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. scrolling, convincing yourself you're fine, you're not even tired, just one more video, your brain is making decisions, forming opinions, sending texts, processing your entire emotional life. All of it filtered through something that's running at 0.05% blood alcohol and completely convinced it isn't. That's not a metaphor, that's a measurement. Now at hour 24, one full day without sleep, something starts happening inside your brain that sounds insane but is completely real and was only discovered in the year 2013. Your brain shrinks. Not permanently, but a neuroscientist named Macon Nedegard at the University of Rochester found that while you sleep, the actual cells that make up your brain contract by about 60%. And that contraction opens tiny channels between them. And through those channels, cerebrospinal fluid rushes in and flushes out all the biological waste your neurons built up while you were awake. Beta-amyloid, tau proteins, the exact compounds that pile up in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is a power wash, a full biological reset your brains run on itself every single night. And every night you cut it short, that wash doesn't complete. The waste doesn't fully drain, it just sits there in your brain tissue. Like dishes you keep saying you'll do tomorrow, except tomorrow you make more dishes. But here's where the story stops being just biology and starts being actually terrifying. Hour 36, no sleep. Your brain at this point has been awake for a day and a half. It is desperate, and desperate brains do something nobody warned you about in school. They start taking sleep anyway without asking. Scientists call them microsleeps. Your eyes are open, you look completely awake, you are sitting upright, apparently conscious, apparently present, but for anywhere between 1 and 30 seconds, your brain just turns off. No warning, no fade to black, no feeling of anything. 1 second you're reading a sentence, the next second you're reading the same sentence and you have no idea why. That's not zoning out, that's not getting distracted. That is your brain going offline mid-reality and rebooting with zero memory of the gap. It happens while people are driving, in class, or during conversations. And the reason it's so dangerous isn't just that it happens, it's that when people in lab studies experience microsleeps, they will look you in the eye afterward and tell you, completely confidently, that they were awake the entire time. Your brain doesn't lock the blackout, it just picks up exactly where it left off and acts like nothing happened. You have probably had microsleeps, you just have no memory of them because that's how they work. In 1959, a radio DJ named Peter Tripp decided to stay awake for 200 hours straight in a glass booth in the middle of Times Square. Doctors watching him around the clock, broadcasting live on the radio. The first 2 days were rough but manageable. Then came the day 3. He started seeing spiders crawling inside his shoes, flames shooting out of desk drawers, At one point, a doctor walked into the booth to run a routine checkup, and Peter Tripp became completely convinced that this man was an undertaker who had come to prepare his body for a burial. He sprinted out of the booth into Times Square, screaming. He was not acting, he was not being dramatic. His brain, starved of sleep for 72 hours, had crossed a line that almost nobody talks about. It started dreaming with his eyes open. The part of your brain responsible for REM sleep, for dreams, doesn't shut down just because you refuse to let yourself sleep. It keeps running, and at a certain point, it stops waiting for your eyes to close. It stops pushing the dream content directly into your waking vision. The hallucinations aren't random noise. They are your actual dreams bleeding through into the reality, with no label that says this isn't real, generated by the same brain regions that processes the actual world, indistinguishable from it. Peter Tripp had no way to tell the difference, neither would you. There is a disease called fatal familial insomnia. It destroys the part of the brain that controls sleep. Patients stop sleeping completely permanently. Within months, hallucinations, collapsing that body temperature, total loss of motor control. Then they die, every single one. No exceptions, no survivors ever. Because sleep isn't optional. It isn't a personality trait. It isn't something you can grind through or biohack your way around. It is as non-negotiable as water. That disease exists as proof, biological, undeniable proof of what happens when the requirement simply cannot be met. 100 years ago, the average person slept 9 hours at night. Today, it's 6 to 8. The gap isn't ambition, it isn't hustle. It's adenosine that never fully drains, a brain that never completely gets clean, an immune system, a memory, an emotional regulation system, all running slightly broken every single day inside a person who feels completely fine. Because that's what chronic sleep deprivation does. It doesn't announce itself, doesn't feel like crisis, it just quietly becomes the baseline. The reason everything is slightly harder than it used to be. The reason the anxiety is a little louder than it should be. The reason some days feel like fog, even though nothing is technically wrong. You're just tired. You have been tired for so long, you forgot what it felt like not to be. Now shut your screen, go to bed, and take a nice sleep.